You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 467, our continuation of the Tales of the Jedi coverage, where tonight we're going to be looking at the 3 episodes that involve Ahsoka Tano. No Jedi, as you may know, but this is going to be a different kind of episode, because I think we got a tale of two cities when it came to the content that was provided. Although I will say I probably enjoy these as much as the Dooku, and I really enjoy the Dooku. So that's no shade, but it was a very different kind of approach there. So joining me tonight is a special guest, as always. Jonesy's with us. Jonesy, welcome to the show, and Merry Christmas. I can see you've got your festive Stormtrooper shirt on.
I am very festive tonight. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. You fake it well, my friend. You fake it well.
I do fake it very well at times. So
trying to get in the holiday spirit a little bit. So Doug the Stormtrooper with the Santa hat out. Yes, it's at Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
Hey,
you know what?
It's been a really exciting day and week, though. So
it has. But before we get to that, though, I do want to. So I don't know. I guess it's been tradition now for the last 2 years where I reveal your Christmas gift from me to you on a live show. And so with it, I figured I would go ahead and just do that now, since we're talking about the Christmas spirit and we're 10 days away. So a couple weeks ago, we were doing a show and you came on, you said, "Hello, friend." And we talked about that being Boba Fett from, the holiday special, right?
Right.
So I couldn't find anything like that. I thought that'd be perfect for you because you do sound like Boba Fett, like the character. I forget the voice actor's name, but I did pick up this for you.
Awesome.
So this is the 50th anniversary Droids edition of Boba Fett, which is very similar in terms of like the design and the coloring and all that. And I'm showing here on the video, but this is yours.
Very inspired. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
So you can display this or sell it on eBay, whatever you'd like to do. It's yours. We're going to, you and I are getting together this weekend in person, which is exciting.
That's
so I will
right.
be bringing this up with you. No obligation. You don't need to get me a gift, though, okay? I just want to make that
Dude, I have been accumulating a stack of things for you, actually.
I know you have.
It's been sitting there in the kitchen, and one of them's a bit of it kind of in the same vein of, getting you something that we've talked about before.
Okay.
On the show, actually. Talked about it on the show, but kind of a newer version. So I'm excited to do that. But of course, you pulled this on me. You could have told me, like, hey, I'm going to show you your Christmas gift. Why don't you show me one of mine? No pressure, but make sure you got it. And I mean, you can do that 5 minutes before the show. It's fine. I can run real fast.
True. I did this to you last year, too, and you're like, dude, but sorry.
Yeah.
But there you go. Merry Christmas.
Maybe. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And you're going to love the ones I've given you. So, but I'll let you tell everyone how much you love them next time we have a show and you have them home with you. Okay.
That sounds good. That sounds fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were talking about this being kind of an exciting day, an exciting week. We definitely have had that. And I'm going to let you kind of spill the beans for our non-Patreon members or anyone who's not really been following the show very closely here in the last week. But I just want to quickly just say that as some of you guys know, we've been talking about, back when Disney Plus was announced, we were, at least I was, I won't speak for Jonesy, but I was a little concerned about would we be able to cover everything, right? All of the new television shows, we had all this new Star Wars stuff coming out. On top of that, at that time anyways, we were thinking we were getting a movie like every 2 years, 3 years, whatever that was, whatever that cadence was going to be set. We had the books, we had comic books. I mean, it was just kind of like this really great time to be a Star Wars content creator because it was an endless sea of opportunity. And fast forward to, 2022, where we are today. And, we've been kind of doing a couple of things here recently to kind of expand the show in a lot of different ways, right? We moved everything to live recordings, which I think has been great because we've had a lot of social interaction with the shows. We've recently launched Jeditorials, which allows us to, talk about Star Wars and not just us, but other people. We've got the Fact Boy show that's been a huge hit, allowing Patreon members to come on and just kind of talk about some really fun topics, pretty light. And more recently, we've been putting stuff off, right? There's a lot of things that we've not gotten around to, and we know that, we acknowledge it, specifically around like the books. Yeah. There's the High Republic Phase 2 has been out now for what, the better part of 2 months, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think two,
Yeah.
maybe pushing 3 months in some cases.
Yeah. And so we've just not really had a chance to get to it. And when we look at the schedule, we've got Bad Batch coming up and et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean,
It's relentless. Yeah.
poor us, right? I mean, but
What a terrible time to be a
I
Star
know.
Wars fan. It's
I
awful.
know. So we recently made a change that I think is going to help us kind of expand our coverage and make sure that we're not missing some things, maybe plug in some holes here in with how we cover things. And Jonesy, I'll let you kind of share the fine details there.
Yeah, we're super excited to invite Lauren Stringer into the Cantina cast in an official capacity. Lauren has actually been moonlighting over on Jedi Novel Archive. Goodness gracious. Her own channel where she's been reviewing Star Wars books and getting into a video log of the Star Wars books. You can kind of follow her on her journey as she reads the book, and they've been absolutely amazing and fantastic. And so it fit with the strategy that Albert and I wanted to do. We love the books. We want to do more with the books, but it's a time thing and it's a capacity thing. And then we have someone with so much energy and how well she's been doing it. And so she was gracious enough to accept this. We announced this on the Patreon show, but want to roll it out to everybody here that Lauren's going to be joining us. We're bringing Jedi Novel Archive, JNA. I'm just going to call it JNA.
Yeah, that's
over into Cantina Cast. There will be a little bit of a simulcasting there as we hopefully invite her listeners over to us and make sure that they can still follow her great content. But all of that will be YouTube exclusive content. It'll all be on YouTube. We'll have it on the website as well. I went ahead and did a quick update on the website. I say quick, it took a while, but I mean to kind of accentuate all of the live stream stuff that we do now, as well as kind of give us a bucket for Jedi tutorials as well as for JNA. And so, but we are ecstatic about this because this is an area where we want to grow and we get the advanced reader copies and we feel bad. We can't do enough with these things, and now we have someone who is dedicated to it. We're going to have Lauren work her into the show a little bit too, which again gives us more flexibility, less reschedules, we hope, when conflicts do come up. And we're just really excited. And she posted her first official Cantina Cast Jedi Novel. I'm just going to stop. For her first video out there for the review of Convergence, the High Republic, which is amazing. So please go out there and check that out. CantinaCast.com/YouTube. It's the first one in the stream now. Maybe second after this one comes out, but right up there in the top. So please go check that out. She did an amazing job. Give her a thumbs up. Leave her a comment. Let her know how much you love it, so we can encourage that content. And she's just going to be streaming those out to us regularly. You talk about organized, man. She's got a whole list of things that she's ready to go do. It's pretty awesome.
That's great. No, and I'll just echo that. I mean, congratulations to Lauren, and she's with us tonight. So if you're on the live feed, congrats, Lauren. Thanks for joining the team. And I guess the lead here is that she will be a third member now of the show officially. And so we're going to still talk about transition. It's still very early. We're going to talk about how we're going to bring her on, what she's going to be doing, but you'll get to hear more of her and her viewpoints, which I think is great because honestly, we've been wanting a female presence on the show for years now. Like a regular recurring. And so this is going to be fantastic to kind of expand our perspectives here. Yeah. And it's, you got two curmudgeons that have been up here now for the better part of 4 years, 5 years.
Who are you calling curmudgeon-y?
Well, you've got more gray going on than me, but I'm just saying.
You just don't let it grow out.
So it would be, I think it's going to be good to get, fresh perspectives, new opinions, and that sort of thing. And, whether or not we continue to grow the show beyond this, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So I don't want to tease anything, but just stay tuned. We've got other ideas. This has been a long process. Like we've been talking about this, but almost a year, 2 years now, just trying to get things going. So good deal. Again, thanks, Lauren, for saying yes and looking forward to
that would have been real awkward.
Oh, yeah. Wait, that's what you say after someone says yes, right? After a proposal.
Oh yeah. I think we told her to, I don't know. Hey, let's not cheapen this. Amazing news. We're super excited. Yes. Go check out the website. You can see all of her content. All the new Jedi tutorial stuff is out there. It's all great. We've had it's just been a really cool week and a cool few weeks here for us too. So really excited. A lot of momentum, I think, coming into it.
Yep. Okay.
Good way to end the year.
Yeah, exactly. Start the year at that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the in-house business news. There was a little bit of Star Wars news that happened recently, and I want to just kind of talk about it. Let's talk about the Patty Jenkins thing just quickly.
Patty Jenkins.
So I filed this under We Told You So.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to get on soapbox. I've had, this is, again, in my second life, third life, when I'm out there battling people on Reddit and Twitter and everything else. I was one of the people that, and I took a gamble. I went out there, put my neck out there and said, with no anonymity, right? Just said, look, this is going to happen now. I mean, it was never off the table. It was just rescheduled. But if you think about it, what really ticks me off is the whole thing about Patty Jenkins. It just feels like it is very targeted because she's female. And I hate to say that, but you don't see this kind of, surgical feedback and surgical attacks on men when they're introduced for some of this stuff. And when she was first introduced, it was like, oh, well, she's unproven. Then she had Wonder Woman that came out. And then it was like, well, everybody went quiet until Wonder Woman 2 came out. And then it suddenly turned into, well, you don't want somebody like that did Wonder Woman 2 doing Star Wars, right? Then it turned into, well, she's, that movie's, they've got a line or whatever, and it's not slated, so it's never going to happen. Of course, they jumped all over the fact that, that it was tabled and off the calendar. That was a red meat to everybody. And then suddenly she comes back and she releases this official statement basically saying, look, the show's still on. And a lot of it was the Warner Brothers thing. We told everybody this, right? This is where I told you so. We said this like almost a year and a half ago on the show and said the reason why that was probably likely tabled and pushed out was because she was under contract to crank out Wonder Woman 2 and 3 before she could even get to Star Wars, right?
Right.
So for anybody that's not been paying attention, James Gunn now has come in and kind of cleaned the slate over at DC. And so it's kind of been a blessing in disguise, as much as I know people, loved the DC movies. And just quickly, Jonesy and I, before we came on the show, we're talking about Henry Cavill.
Wait, what'd you say? They love DC movies?
I said, no, who they? I said, as much as people do love the DC movies.
Oh, they don't.
No, okay. Stop it. So we were talking about Henry Cavill because we were like, man, we got to get him in Star Wars. And I said, Elzar Mann. No, I said Stellan Gios, and you said Elzar Mann, which I'd be fine with either one of them, honestly. Like, get him in Star Wars in some way.
And for those that don't know, he just got tied to the Warhammer 40K series, or I believe it's probably going to be the 40K series.
So you and that other person are like super excited.
Dude, man, Warhammer is big, dude. Man.
I know it is. I'm
you lit a fire, man. I didn't know where that came from, man. That was a lot of excitement.
All right, back on track, though. So Patty Jenkins, Rogue Squadron, it's happening. What do you think about it?
Well, again, when everything fell apart, we knew it was scheduling. I mean, everything just pointed to scheduling and conflicts, and she was in demand. She's trying to do a lot of different things. DC and Warner Brothers had the prioritization over Lucasfilm. Now, what's really interesting about the statement that came out today is that Lucasfilm continued to pursue her, even though when she walked away. So she did walk away from Rogue Squadron. She wasn't let go or severed. It was the project kind of it was at a place and it couldn't go any further because of all the things going on, right?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And now that things have quieted down, I mean, DC is kind of cleaning house, figuring out trying to get their ship righted. Now you have this opportunity, she can come back. And we understand why this story, why Rogue Squadron means so much to Patty Jenkins and why she is passionate about doing this project and pushing it forward. This has a familial aspect to her. I believe it's her father, right?
Right.
Was a pilot. So, I mean, this is a story she wants to tell. She wants to be involved in this. And she has a very personal investment in it, which is always, man, anytime you have that at the director level, at the writing level, and we kind of see this with Tony Gilroy, you get a whole nother level of a movie potentially, right? It's not a guarantee. I get that. But that level of investment, when you invest yourself at work or in a hobby or things like that, and you have that passion, you get something totally different from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about this. I think this is great news. I want the fandom to settle down. Let's see some content, before we start making judgment. Let's see some content. Let's see what happens. Let's get some movies rolling. I mean, come on, let's get a movie out there, right?
Yeah.
And so let's see if we can move that forward, and then we'll kind of complain and everything about it afterwards. We'll sing her praises, and she'll be back on cloud 9, rebounding from Wonder Woman 84 or whatever it was that nobody watched. So
yeah,
I kid. A lot of people watched that.
Yeah, a lot of people watched it. I don't think a lot of people liked it. I think a lot of people did like it. As far as
but we know there's a lot of reasons why a movie sucks.
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily the director. It's not necessarily. I mean, a production company in Warner Brothers and DC have found ways to make those franchises awful at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think everybody's probably guilty at some point.
Yeah.
But so, yeah. And again, for Star Wars movies, it could bomb. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be an incredible movie.
Right.
And I surely don't know that this is going to, it could still not pan out too. I mean, I want to be clear about that. I mean, she's
Mhm.
coming out and saying it's happening, and it never was not going to happen outside of just scheduling issues, right? Nothing personal.
Right.
There were some fake stories out there about her. We don't need to get into all that, but yeah, so it could not happen. I just want to clarify that that's what's happening, and we've got something to look forward to there.
And you were
And
right.
that we were right. Okay. Also, speaking of, well, we weren't talking about nominations, but let's talk about Golden Globe nominations.
Let's talk about amazing content. Yeah.
There you go. Amazing content. The Golden Globe nominations came out, as well as was it the Viewers' Choice Awards? Is that right?
Critics' Choice nominations.
Critics' Choice. I don't even know who are these people that are critics, but so but the Golden Globe. Did you point to yourself just now?
No, I waved my hand. You don't need to know who's.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The Golden Globe nominations came out, and I was a little surprised, honestly. But Diego Luna, not because Diego Luna was nominated, he was nominated for Best Actor, Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series, drama, to be clear. But he was nominated for Best Performance, so Best Actor essentially, or I guess if you had to equate that to something like the Oscars, which is good. I mean, this bodes well for them. But I was a little surprised that nothing else wasn't nominated, and specifically, we've been gushing about the performances of other
supporting
people.
characters. Yeah,
other supporting characters, and they kind of got passed up. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, how much do you care about this? How much vested or how vested are you in something like Golden Globes and Emmys and all that?
I think awards are BS for the most part because it seems like that's kind of arbitrary on how they do these things. I will say this though: there's a lot of great content out there, and a lot of it that we don't necessarily watch.
Yeah.
So that other parts of Andor weren't recognized. I think writing kind of feels bad. And when you look over at Critics' Choice, so the Critics' Choice, Diego Luna was also nominated for the same type of award, Best Actor in a Drama. And then the whole Andor series was nominated for Best Drama, which is that's really cool, right? I would have loved to have seen that kind of recognition, kind of top to bottom.
Yeah.
Would have been really validating, I think. But if you're not nominated for awards, you don't get awards. It doesn't mean that you didn't produce something truly amazing. And I think when we look at the Star Wars landscape, it's even when we did our show this past week, when we were ranking all the TV shows in the Disney Plus area and worked in a couple from just the Disney area in general, Andor was up there. It was way up there. I mean, it was my number one, but from a consensus standpoint, we had to kind of pare that down just a little bit. I mean, making way for like Rebels and Clone Wars, which are staples in Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But still, for something brand new to come out like that and stick with us and really have that lasting impact, I don't get too caught up in Golden Globes and Emmys and Academy Awards and all that, but it is nice when they do get recognized as a nomination. I would have liked to seen more because I think it's just worth it. But again, there's a lot of great content out there as well. So I don't want to hold it against the other content that's getting nominated.
Yeah, and I mean, I pay attention to these things, but let's be honest. Like, I'm simply a whack Star Wars theory person, right? I don't really. I'm not in the industry.
Not you.
Thank you. I'm not in the industry. I don't have any close ties to it. Maggie's the closest I got, and that's like me saying that. Oh yeah, I know Steven Spielberg, right? That's about as close as I get. And so as an observer, right? I think one of the things that I think gets overlooked is the landscape of television today. When you count streaming services and every movie production company having their own streaming service and then some, it's a very, very different landscape than where it was 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, you were pretty much stuck to Emmy nominations. A lot of them came from the primary network, CBS, ABC, here in the U.S., right?
Mm-hmm.
Fox was in there as well. Even with the advent of cable television back in the early 80s, they weren't really cranking out that stuff. It wasn't until like the HBOs came in and started putting out television series, if you will, right? That's when it started garnering a lot more attention. And then from there, it just blew up. So I say that because one thing I don't think people take into account is that there is, almost to your point, there's so much more competition out there than there ever was, right? So many more new actors and actresses and performers.
Premium competition.
Yeah, and it is a very premium. So, and I'm not saying, had Andor come out with the same kind of writing, production-wise would have been different, but same kind of writing 20 years ago, who knows? It probably would have been nominated, probably would have won every dang award. But the stakes are just so much higher. There's so much more competition that I don't really see this as a drawback, but I do feel like it doesn't really. I don't know. Maybe not an exact pulse on where we are with television nominations these days. So
But when did you ever think that you would hear Star Wars nominated for
no,
best drama or
best
best actor in
anything.
a drama?
No, I mean we got shunned.
I mean, anything drama. I mean, I
No,
never would have crossed my mind ever.
no, we that was just was never part of the formula, and even in
Right.
the special effects areas, right? I mean, as innovative as ILM has been over the years through practical effects and CGI. Like you think about how many times did we get I say we, but Lucasfilm, they got shunned time and time again, even at the awards for those types of awards.
Yeah.
So
After the initial movie, yeah, it was just kind of expected.
yeah,
But
right,
but I mean, this is cool though. It's really
yeah,
cool. And again, it's really cool to see it recognized in a drama because never in my life would I thought about that.
yeah, it's a good deal there. Okay,
You know who's not full of drama, Albert? Our wonderful Patreon members. We want a special thanks to everyone who contributes to the show. Are now part of the tribe members: Mike, Rob, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Justin, Jackson, Sharkman, Dan, Daz, and Isabella. And then our Delusions of Grandeur members: Rod, Eugene, Kathy, and Hard Counter. Again, thank you all for all of your support throughout the months and the years. And we hope you are enjoying the extra episode of From a Certain Point of View we just did this past week, where we invited Risk and Dante back to the show. And we talked about our favorite Disney Plus shows. So we ranked them out there. We had 8 shows, and then we threw a few in there at the end as well, and came to a list I think that we felt pretty good about. A list that we weren't going to get laughed off the internet or be torched for. I think we landed in a pretty good place. So go listen to that episode out there on Patreon, cantinacast.com/Patreon. Leave us some comments, send us a note over on Discord, and let us know what you think. What's your list of favorite content in the Disney Plus era? And then if you expand that to like the Disney era in general, what's your favorite TV show content? Let us know.
yeah, sounds good. Okay, with that, let's talk about Ahsoka's return, the Tales of the Jedi episodes around Ahsoka. And so I started this off by talking about how I felt like it was a tale of two cities, and all I meant by that was when I look, and maybe this is me being, maybe I'm not being objective enough, but when I look at the content that was given to us for Dooku, it was almost like in the defense of. It was almost like they were trying to really allow us to get inside his head and see that maybe he's still wrong and he's still tainted by the dark side, but there are very valid reasons for that, right? It was almost kind of a justification for his way of thinking, his approach, his ideals, backing up his ideals that we saw in previous things. So I really appreciated that, and there was some really good, deep force type stuff that we were talking about there, right?
Mhm.
With Ahsoka, I felt like it was kind of just filling in some blanks, but it wasn't as deep. Now that said, I thought it was like the first episode. I think had to happen. This was life and death because just the privilege to kind of see her family and the Togrutas and their culture in a way that we had never seen before. Right? I think that was beautiful and completely unexpected. When we get to the second episode, which was what was that one? Sorry, Practice Makes Perfect.
Right.
That one was really fun, and then it just completely sobers you when they finally cut over to the very end there, and you realize what the heck was going on and what the purpose of this episode was, and we'll
Right.
talk that here a little bit later. But with Resolve, that one was I think probably the more deeper one. It certainly had more. I mean, it was certainly the longest one. I think that was almost 15 minutes, 14 minutes, somewhere around there. But I mean, we got a really cool lightsaber battle in there, and we got I guess what I would call the beginning of Fulcrum, or her new identity in helping the Rebel Alliance, right?
Right.
So all of this was really great stuff. I guess I'm not saying it wasn't as deep, but it was still very, very cool. And as a series, not to rehash our opening thoughts on the last episode that we did about this, but wow, I mean, it's just great stuff, beginning to end. The writings, the animation, the sound, the music, top to bottom, really good stuff. And like, why again? I'm going to ask the same question I asked 2 weeks ago or last week. Why the heck have they not announced season 2? Just do it, right? But what are your thoughts on the
I
third?
mean, this and Visions. I don't know which one you're more animated about. See what I did there?
Yeah, animated about.
Well, yeah. So speaking of animation, the man, the visuals and the lighting on this, and the particle effects, and all of like the technical stuff that goes behind it. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh! Like, oh my gosh! Where the colors in the Dooku episodes are very matted and very muted and very dull intentionally, right? This one was just vibrant. I mean,
Mhm.
the grasses and the mountains and the landscape, they were just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I paused it and just looked at it. I was like, I just want to sit out there and just look at this. I just want to sit in the plains and look because it was just so gorgeous. It was amazing. The music, I will be a little more critical of music. I think in the first episode, the music wasn't working for me. It was a little too excitable. But when you get to the music in the second and the third one, oh my gosh, back to being absolute epic Kevin Kiner stuff.
Mhm.
Absolutely, especially the third episode, just absolutely epic. And with, of course, with Rex and Ahsoka into the second one. But yeah, I agree with you. I think these were a series of episodes that were very, very much more fill in the blank. And you can make the argument that's what Dooku was doing too. But I think with Dooku, we don't have as much material with Dooku as we do with Ahsoka. And so it's a much more challenging experience to try to do this with Ahsoka. When we speculated what we were going to get from the Ahsoka series, one of the things I felt really strongly about was that we were going to see the Jedi actually recognize and take Ahsoka or be given Ahsoka. And we were kind of interested how that was going to work, like what the canon take on that process was going to look like. We didn't get it.
Mm.
That was disappointing because I just want to see it. And I hadn't really
Yeah.
built myself up to expect it, but I really thought because it was a natural point. But it was really cool that at least we get kind of the front end of that says, well, here's how they recognize they have a force user and what it means to them. And you have kind of the shaman, the tribesman person, with Gantika. So I thought that was really cool that we did get that aspect of it. And I like how we do get, her toughening up and the Anakin relationship and the difficulty of the Anakin relationship. I think it's important to continue to show some of that stuff too. Yeah, and we'll talk a lot more about the final episode, of course, with the Inquisitor and kind of the tie-ins with the Ahsoka novel to an extent and some of that. But that was kind of just first take on it. Amazing visuals, fantastic music for the part, for the most part. But again, it was a bit more of backstory filling, not necessarily stuff you need to know about Ahsoka until you get to episode 3, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I mean, it's been pretty wonderful to see. And the only complaint being, again, they do feel short. Like I really wish we would have
Yeah.
gotten longer episodes. And
I think you really noticed it with the second one in particular, where it was jumping a bit.
mhm.
You were seeing the progression, then all of a sudden you got to the end, the payoff,
Payoff was worth
and
it,
then
I
it's
think.
oh, and then well, I mean, it was cool, but they walk in and you're like, oh crap, this is what we're doing. This is what it's all for,
Hmm.
and scene,
Yeah.
and then it kind of ends. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, we just got to the good stuff.
Well, we've
Let's
seen it. I mean, you can go watch.
I know, but let's do it again.
Oh, you want him to show it, right?
Just roll right into it, man.
Yeah. 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 I can see that. All right. Well, let's talk about the episodes, I guess, one by one, and we'll start with Life and Death. Which by the way, I forgot I failed to mention that we got was her Janina Gavanka
Gavin Carter.
playing her mother as Pav T, which was really awesome to kind of hear. This first episode, I mean, there's not a lot to it, honestly. I mean, there's nothing we don't know, I guess. We knew she was a Jedi. We knew she was probably identified when she was very young. But I think it was very sweet to actually see, like, the opening scene with her dad, like,
Mhm.
running around. Was it Nakil, played by Sunil Malhotra? But by the way, all the actors, the voice speaking actors are all people of color, which I thought was pretty cool. But seeing, like, a father that excited about, his daughter and running around through the streets. And then, I mean, that gets to me, right, for
Mhm.
personal reasons. And then on top of that, knowing that his daughter would become such an amazing person, an epic person in Star Wars, as Ahsoka Tano was really touching. I mean, I know that's probably, people probably just glossed over that moment, but there was just something about it. So I really did enjoy getting to see not only her mother, but her father, and just how loving and caring they were for her. Although I will make an argument, like, we'll talk about this, and I mean this lightheartedly, but, like, this is a lesson in what not to do with your child, right? So,
Don't take them hunting when they're a year old.
yeah, like, what the heck, man? Like, what are you doing? Like,
But it was a cultural thing, right?
I think there's better ways to do this. Let's just say that. Take some people with you, take a communicator of some sort. I don't know. Plan ahead. Bad planning.
Right, but the community aspect of it all too, like throughout the episode, the kind of the grandmother, I call her, Gantika kind of the shaman-ish, but
Yeah.
That's the kind of role, right? The matriarchal role within the community, and it was really cool to see them come around. And again, even when the cat comes out, towards the end carrying Ahsoka, they all have the presence to pause and wait. That something unique about this is happening,
Hmm.
and there's something special. And again, I think that comes with a tight knit community. I think they did a really amazing job of helping you build, showing some of that within just 10 to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good accomplishment given what they were showing the rest of the time when the Ahsoka, tapping into her force abilities. And again, oh my god, the lighting when she and the cat, are face to face and like the beam of light coming in,
Oh yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
it's like
I mean,
picture
it's just a
perfect.
technical marvel. It's just amazing, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the actual like the Togrutas were, I don't know, I always pictured them as being a very advanced society, right? Like and to see them in this way,
Yeah,
I
very
mean I
humble
don't,
village. Yeah,
yeah, like a very humble village. I mean they had some tech. There were some droids there that was helping out her dad on the thing. And you can't escape it. I mean the the fabric of Star Wars is such that everybody seems to have a droid, and we see that again in the third episode, right? They're just everywhere, right? There's tech everywhere. But, to see them growing up and or living in such humble abodes and, hunting with what looked like old rifles, although I think it shot a blaster bolt of some sort, right? But it still looked
right.
like an old timer kind of blaster and still being tied to like, spiritual, like, and I get it. It's the custom stuff, right? Like the whole part of the trees, and they make mention of the ancestors and how they kind of believe that. I was starting to get vibes of like, of Avatar, right?
Hmm.
And Avatar is not the first to do this. The movie, I should say, the
Right.
first movie. They're not the first to talk about these types of things. These are, themes and motifs that happen in all kinds of storytelling. Same thing with like the circle of life, right? And killing and being very reverent and respectful, even though you've taken a life. You're doing it because as a, it's not for hunt and sport. It's because you've got to live, kind of thing. And we saw that in Avatar. We saw it in Dances with Wolves. I mean, there's,
Taking only what you need. Yeah.
yeah, taking only what you need, right? All of these repeat themselves in so many other cultures and other storytelling. So from that perspective, it was really cool, very refreshing to see. I guess all I was saying is like, I was not expecting the Torutas to be kind of that, especially when, everything I know about them, they're flying around in ships and, we had them in the High Republic and some of the
Right.
empires there. But, it's like, I guess the way I was thinking about it is it's like every other race, right? You've got your Coruscants, but then you've got your Tatooines, right? They're all humans or, whatever, but just depends on where they grow up.
It's your rural versus your urban societies and cultures and
Yeah.
norms and stuff, right?
Yeah. I want to talk about that just quickly, that moment where she kind of, uses the force. I forget what they call it officially. It's that animal affinity, right? We've talked about this with, I guess Ezra is the one that comes to mind because he's so strong in that. Like it's
Right.
one of his biggest things. But we've had Anakin Skywalker, we've had, I don't know, other Jedi and others. Elzar Mann is another one who's got just a, kind of a specialty for them.
Hmm.
But any thoughts on what, like, I really want to know what was going on in that exchange when Ahsoka, as a baby, was like communicating with that tiger thing, and then later on when she says, "Rakshir, do I my," and I'm assuming that's thank you so much kind of thing.
Right.
But there's almost like he's trying to talk to her, and it's really fascinating to kind of think like, what would a baby have said at that point, other than just take me home, and then for that lion or that tiger to not attack the family, like what did she tell him? Like, because you know, circle of life kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and some of it, the tiger was wounded. It was hurt. It's hungry. And so it's that I kind of view it as more the Jedi line of like fear and feeling safe and that it's okay and giving that calm and that peace and that just presence and for her to make that connection in the force. I think sometimes just connections stops you from all of your wants. I mean, some of your needs they fall by the wayside a little bit, and you make a connection with someone, and some of that falls apart, and you just feel like you have a bond with them almost immediately. So whatever it was that they exchanged, it was very much this. And I imagine for a baby, I mean, she's 1 years old,
Yeah.
so cognitive ability is still very much developing, right? So it's very basic. But
No, I mean,
again,
well, yeah.
go ahead. Yeah, no, go
Well, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, like, we don't know. Maybe they're an advanced race too. Like, 1 year is the equivalent of like, I don't know, 2 years or something. There could be that
Maybe, but she was still, cooing and
cooling
babbling,
and kind. Yeah,
yeah. So she was still acting like we would associate with a 1-year-old, right?
yeah,
But again, she did have that calming presence where she stood up and she addressed, the tiger or whatever the beast's official name is, and actually reached out to make a connection. So the cat didn't feel so alone. It didn't feel so abandoned. Maybe, I mean, you could go down a lot of different tangents about how you want to do it, and it's injured, so she's not a threat to it either.
hmm
And that they do the things that her mother is saying to her, again, not able to really maybe formulate these into firm thoughts, but this balance and the sense of we're all connected, those feelings can come out, and the cat's at least just processing them as these feelings that says, you know what, this is different, this is something special, I don't need to just go attack and eat and rip it to shreds. Something feels special about the cat, and she's probably saying like, I really want to go home. you know
yeah,
I'm afraid, but I'm not afraid.
yeah. And the way
It's the best I got.
well, no, I agree. I like that. And the other thing that came to mind as watching this is Ahsoka. We know her as a general, and we've seen in the next episode of how good she is with a lightsaber, and why she is the training that she went through.
Right.
But then there's also a pacifying kind of you know aspect to her, which I think is what really at the end of the day, there's so many things that make her a very fascinating character, but she can be a very pacifying person. And we've seen this time and time again. So many countless examples of where she's, spoken to other people and put them at ease, and, chose a path that wasn't war, or chose a path that wasn't fighting. So being able to have that dynamic kind of ability to a character and seeing it at this early age, I think was pretty special too, right? And of course, I mean, you could argue what's she going to do as a baby, but
Right.
the the point is, we see that that side of her is a side that flourishes early on, and so I think for Ahsoka, it probably is, you know, first nature for her to do that before she, picks up the lightsabers. So,
All right. I guess we should highlight Stephanie's comments here in the chat. So she's saying, doesn't really matter what she said, I don't think, seeing as animals don't typically speak human. She followed it up with animals and babies probably have similar thought processes. And that might be true because, brain size and that type of thing, probably a physiological aspect of it is probably true to that.
yeah, this came up. Not to digress, but this came up during the season 2 Mandalorian episode when Ahsoka Tano was talking to Grogu, right?
Right.
And we were kind of trying to wrap our heads around, like, so how did they communicate, right? And I think one of the theories we threw out there was that through the Force there is some kind of a common language, right? It may not be her speaking in basic or common, right, or her native tongue of Togruti or whatever.
Right. Because he was asking her if she was talking to him or if they had a way of communicating. And I think her response was in a way.
In a
Right.
way, yeah, yeah. And so maybe that's part of it. Maybe you could chalk it up to, through the Force, all things are possible.
I actually like
And
that. I hadn't thought about that. That's actually a really good connection. I wonder if that was what they were
that's why
actually
I'm here.
thinking.
Yeah.
You're kind of good at this. You should start a podcast.
You know, I may just do that. I'll ask Lauren if she wants to join.
Oh,
But yeah, it
such
could
a
be that,
jerk.
right? It could be, it just could be that through the Force, that there's some kind of common thought process or
Yeah.
language that happens, right? I mean, it would have to be, right? How would she communicate? Hey, one, don't eat me. Two, they're just defending me. Three, I need
Let's
you
be
to take
besties.
me back to the city. And he's just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, this sucks, but all right, I guess I'll do it. I mean, it's just,
Do you think they'll shoot me? No, you're gonna be
no,
fine,
you're
bro.
fine. You're fine. Trust me. I got this. Right. The other part of it is at the very end, that is, so just the last piece I had on here was really I love the line of Jedi. Ahsoka is Jedi. I just love the way it's delivered.
Mhm.
And then I can't get I am no Jedi out of my head, right? Knowing that eventually comes to that, and she's probably better off for that. But
Well, but it's that affirmation that she is,
yeah,
and that's when we get to the episode at the end. I'm sorry, it's another affirmation that she's resumed that post, even though I know she dismisses it later on, but really
well, and
she's
is
living.
it a
She's
rubber band kind of thing for her? Do you think it's just one of these things where she disconnects and feels like she's obligated, right? It's that itch, she can't help it, she comes back. Or do you think by the time we get to the Ahsoka series, she's finally made her peace and like, I'm not a Jedi. Like I've made, I've yes, I I'm a good person and I want to help people, but that's not what defines me as a Jedi. It's the other things that define people as Jedi, which I don't want any part of. And I'm kind of this new thing that I want to be, I guess.
I have a feeling that's probably very much it. So she's not necessarily a Jedi, but the core values of a Jedi, what they're supposed to represent, Ahsoka very much represents, right?
The Senate, yeah. I'm kidding.
No, she's not the Senate. But yes,
She represents the public and the senators, right?
no, she does not. But I mean, but it's that premise though of that everything that the Jedi were supposed to be, that's what really Ahsoka is. That's what she represents. That's what she holds herself accountable to, and all of the other things that happened as a result of her dismissal from her leaving the order, I guess, but kind of feeling forced out. That baggage keeps her from just adopting the mantle of Jedi, but really she's operating like a Jedi, and we finally see that happen in the final episode.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Very short, sweet to the point. I mean, straight to the point. Let's move to practice makes perfect. There were so many good moments in this. Like, and it starts off like, yeah.
I want to know what your favorite moment was.
What was the Kanan moment?
Oh, was it? Mine was
No.
Jesse. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Jesse. Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. Especially since it's a character we all know and love.
Yeah, and love to get pissed about. Very into that.
No, I like the Kanan moment. The Jesse moment's good. I mean, honestly, the big moment for me is that reveal at the very end because I was not expecting it. The emotional weight of that scene when they go, because they fade to black, they come back, and it's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe that episode just stuck with me, but there was no question in my mind where she was at that time. And I need to go back and watch because I don't remember if it was a carbon copy of them walking, because I knew at some point they're heading down there, right? We never got the line of "let's hope all that training paid off," right? That was kind of was never shown in the original episode. And if anybody doesn't know, we're referring to season 7 of the Clone Wars, where Ahsoka kind of makes her last stand and to get out of there, to get off the the
ship.
The ship?
Yeah,
I forget now. Anyways, to see them walking down there, like it was very clear what was going on, and it just snaps. It's like a click. It's like, holy crap. Like, I know exactly why he told this story. And it had so much more. I mean, that's like you said, that scene in that episode is so powerful and there's so much going on. But then you add this into her, amplifies it in a lot of different ways, which I thought was just absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed this episode, even though on the surface, there really isn't a lot of content, right? I mean, you think about it, it's kind of a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was cool to see her confidence grow though too, and when she finally accepts some things. And I think they borrows a little bit into the next episode too, when she clenches her fist and then lets go a little bit. You can infer some things there. But I think the one thing about walking into the room, really should go watch what happens next if you haven't. I think if you have, you have an idea, but you don't really understand, like, oh my gosh, is she going to take on a whole, complete hangar full of clones? And that's the question you're kind of left with. And is she that good? So you got to go watch that content to go get the answer to that question, which I think is really cool.
Oh, I can tell you.
Oh yeah, what happens, Albert?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does a pretty good job of it too.
Yeah, not bad.
But I mean, it was cool to see that. I got to be honest, I didn't anticipate that scene coming up.
Mm-mm.
And so that was a bit of a nice surprise because I had forgotten. It's been so long since I watched season 7 of Clone Wars, but that was a really nice surprise. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there was at one point I remember watching the episode the first time and thinking, okay, I get it. Where's this going? This is really cool, but what's this about? And then it just like hits you like a door or a shovel to the face.
And again, the most memorable moment of it was probably Anakin's line to her, the best thing I can do as your teacher is to teach you how to protect yourself, how to defend yourself. I won't always be there, kind of thing. You've got to be able to do this because you're not always going to have someone to look at, to have your back.
Or I may not always be your master. I may not. Yeah, exactly. I may not always be around.
Yeah, I mean, there's things change, right? And they were in the middle of a war, and she was very young at the time too. So being extra hard on her made a lot of sense of saying, I can't always be focusing on you. The missions aren't going to allow that to happen. So I need you to be able to take this on and be in the right frame of mind and understand the seriousness of it. This isn't just an exercise where you can, display and show off and get Kanan or Caleb, excited and ramped up and out there, pumping his fist and everything. It's not a demonstration or a showing. This is a matter of survival, and this is training for a reason.
Yeah.
And again, she's fortunate to go up against the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 501st. He even says that in the he says this is about life and death, which, is literally the title of the first episode, Life or Death. But I'm sure that was intentional.
No,
But yeah, and I think it speaks to, I mean, as much as we, this is an Ahsoka centric episode. I mean, it does highlight something really important about Anakin. One, how important, just how strong in the Force he is. This is how he thinks, right? It's not like I get it. Jedi have this kind of what is it? Like they can see things before they happen, right? We know that happens.
right.
You know, a lot of times I think, especially when you look at what happened in the Order 66. Although, again, I would say the dark side was clouding a lot of the Jedi, so it didn't allow them to kind of see this stuff happening. But I think what Anakin's approach here was really about a lot of times we're just reactive, right? The droids, are lifeless things and they shoot at you. And so it's just all pure reactionary time. And that's why he was kind of like, this is a crap test. It really doesn't prove anything. Really, what you need to do is go up against real people, number one. And number two, you need to proactively, like preemptively determine when they're going to shoot, which is a totally different, again, it's another level in terms of how he perceives the Force and how you tap into the Force to see that, because he's that much more effective. And for him, it's probably a walk in the park, right? Not a big deal. But it felt like she had to work at this. She had to get better at it. And so it does speak to what his approach in using the Force and just how in tune he is with it, and his ability to kind of pass that on to somebody like Ahsoka, with the ironic piece being that it's what ended up saving her life once, all of his new forces had turned on her. So,
Right, and there's always a new spin on it too, right? So when
mhm.
she kind of figured everybody out, then Rex pulled the pistols on her,
Yeah,
and
right.
stunned her.
Yep.
So I mean, it just when you think you got it all, going in your direction, the bottom falls out. Something changes. You have to adapt. You have to be able to stay flexible. And unfortunately, yeah, you have to watch your back. That another unfortunate lesson in all of us.
Yeah. And sorry, the last thing is that the line about I thought I was late. That's what I meant. Seeing Anakin. I mean, the crap rolls downhill, right, in management, and you see Kenobi doing that to Anakin. Anakin does it to Ahsoka. I'd love to see that maybe in the Ahsoka series, if there's an opportunity for her to be training somebody or whatever. I mean, they missed it already with Rebels, but we get why. But it would be cool to have that line uttered again at some point down the road where she's training someone, maybe Grogu or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not commenting on Obi-Wan's Floby-Wan beard or Floby-Wan hair either.
What was wrong with it? You're so critical of his hair and his
Well,
beard. It
no,
looked
no, his
fine.
beard's fine. It was the hair was weird.
Mhm. Okay.
It was very soft. He takes very good care of it at this time, but
Well, it's just the war's just starting. He doesn't care after.
well, Satine's still alive.
Oh, true. That's why he's got the product in his ear.
That's
Got
right.
the little sheen going on there.
Might have died of Mandalore.
Okay, let's talk about Resolve, which is the third episode here. And we can talk about the elephant in the room, and that being the Ahsoka Tano novel, or the Ahsoka novel, and just how varied or how different it is. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me as much. I think I'm starting to really come around to this idea of, hey, we got it in the novelization, right? And yes, it was canon because they said everything was going to be canon. But I kind of don't mind if they change it when we get the visuals. I don't know how I'm going to feel though. Like here's where I probably feel I may have a different opinion at some point. Like that moment when I feel like the book did better than the animation. I think that's going to be a very difficult thought process for me to like really reconcile that. But so far, I think they've done a pretty good job of showing us something visually better than maybe that I read or imagined as reading the book. And I'm of course talking about the Mando stuff and the Empire's End and all that. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, they carried some things forward. So her name is still Ashla. That's
Yeah.
what it was in the book.
Hmm.
She was working on a farm.
Yep.
Some of the things they were doing was very connected to it in a way, but not the scale I think that we had seen previously, or at least that the book kind of built. I think the one disappointing aspect about it was you didn't get the connection with the crystals. I think that's the part that probably people go back to and are saying, well, we missed all of that stuff about, and all of that predicates how she gets she purifies the crystals, and that's how she ends up building her white lightsabers.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's the major, I think
yeah.
that's the major gap in all of this is that while we still have, presumably she could use the Inquisitor's lightsaber and purify those and do it. The meaning behind it, because it was all so rushed and it was like, here I am, Inquisitor, and then here I am, Ahsoka, and then let's fight. And then she Obi-Wan's him, like
Mhm.
he did them all. And which I thought was really cool, right? I like the idea that she, I'm getting tense and then relax and just use everything against them, pure Kenobi versus Maul. But yeah, I think it's that lightsaber part that's the thing I get stuck on, I think. The rest of it I was actually pretty fine with. I mean, condensing all of that into, 15 minutes or less. Okay. But I don't know how they work any of that stuff back in. So it feels like that's all on the cutting room floor now.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, if I'm the average viewer, or I mean, even if I'm a Star Wars fan, I mean, unless you've read that novel or you're really a big Ahsoka Tano fan, you probably don't know how she got the white blades.
Isn't everybody a huge Ahsoka Tano fan?
I mean, I would think so, but I mean, there are people that watch Star Wars and they're not like you know trolling around on Wikipedia
I
and
don't
doing all
believe you.
that. You're starting to sound like a separatist. Like they're out there and they're watching the series and they're just kind of taking whatever comes at them face value. And we've never seen the origin of those white lightsabers, right? And so for us, yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, this is cool. Those are the two. I mean, from the novel, we knew that, but then those are the two crystal. Well, presumably, I mean, we could be wrong, but that's essentially what happened in the story, right? She took like
Right.
the stones out and purifies them and goes down that route with the two white lightsabers. I think it's important. I think I can see where that would have been cool if they had spent just a little bit of time on that, right? I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to get into like, okay, so now we got to define what the purification process looks like, and that becomes canon, and has to be a recipe that's followed later. I'm trying to come up with ideas, ways, or reasons why they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and maybe not go that far down because you can do all that off screen, that the after effect part.
Hmm.
But yeah, how would you have worked in the singing to you part and the connection, the feeling the pain? Like the way the story was structured and written, there was nowhere to really put any of that in that it would actually work.
Yeah,
Right? They would have had to restructure the episode and probably double it in order the double the length of it in order to work that type of arc into it. Now, personally, I think that would have enhanced it quite a bit because I think that would have been a really cool tie to uh, not only to, I mean, it ties into everything afterwards, Rebels, Mandalorian, everything, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it starts to give people a question to an answer that that question that they had.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying because I didn't consider that. Like you're right. The crystals they were almost calling to her for help, like help us. Like
Right.
she was saving the crystals in one way, even though that wasn't her primary objective. It was preservation of her life without lightsabers. But yeah, there was that connection. Yeah, I can see where that would have been a little bit more challenging to kind of
It
kind
would
of
have been
tell
tough to
and
do.
show.
Like, you'd have at least double the episode length.
Hmm.
But again, I think the elements are still there. She was still unarmed.
Right.
She had to turn things back against the Inquisitor. I like that the Inquisitor knew who she was and that there was some drama there that went in line with that as well. I thought that was really cool that she was recognized. And then the comment, of course, that you're supposed to be dead or whatever it was, is that was really good. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah. The other piece that was picked up from the novel too was and they didn't really make a big deal about this, although it was still there, an underlining kind of thread, and that was the Empire, right, was out there trying to gather resources because of the Death Star, right? They've got a
Right.
whole space station now. They've got to feed an entire empire that they've got to feed, and so they were going around and pretty much just taking whatever they wanted if you didn't sign up to join them. And that was kind of what was happening, right? There was a whole agricultural like food procurement piece of it that was going on in the Ahsoka
Yeah.
novel, and so they did
Prices
touch on
were
that.
severely, yeah, well, they kind of did. The prices were severely depressed. I think
Yeah,
they talked a little bit about that this time last harvest was much
their
better. Now
quotas were higher this year,
yeah, they were getting, nothing. They were getting pennies on the dollar effectively.
right?
So I think that, yeah, I mean, again, there was a lot of connected, strings. I won't call it tissue or anything substantial, but there were definitely connections to the book that make you say, okay, the book is still kind of the baseline for it. But now that we've seen it on screen, a lot of the details have changed and they're no longer, I think you just have to say it's no longer canon, really, really almost entirely. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean it's
unfortunately.
not it doesn't mean it's not an entertaining book though.
I do want to highlight two other things that came up in this episode. There was I, when I was watching the episodes again ahead of this show, there have been a number of times on our podcast where I've talked about the Force being explained as luck, or luck in my head being explained as the Force, and we saw this again when she saves the sister, and he says, "Oh, you're lucky, very lucky, right?" And it always goes back to that Obi-Wan Kenobi line of, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. And for me, it's
Right.
always been him saying, look, there really is no such thing as luck. That is the force. That is either the cosmic or the living force intervening, the goodwill of people, whatever it is, somebody else is doing this. It's just not happenstance that things happen like this.
You gotta be careful what you say. Will of the Force too, though.
Well, oh,
Some of the High Republic content, man. That's a touchy
that is
that's a
touchy
touchy
subject.
phrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could
if you
lead to chaos.
if you've read the High Republic, then you probably know what we're talking about. Otherwise, we don't. So I did enjoy that, and I don't know. At some point, I need to figure out a way to. I don't want to make a show out of it, but it would be cool to highlight all of these kind of times when luck is spoken about, and really, it's just the force. But the other one, I don't. You mentioned the clenching of the fists. Like,
Mhm.
it's such a subtle kind of thing that happens in the episode that if you're not really paying attention to it, you miss it. I think you miss it completely.
Right.
But it is, and the way I interpret, I guess my interpretation of this, and I want to talk about two things: that and the, calling it the Kenobi Maul fight, which I agree. I'm not saying I don't disagree there. But first off, so that moment of like inner peace is what she was going to need, right? She went in, she was angry, she was gripping her fists and stuff, and it wasn't until she kind of let all that go that she kind of had that moment of clarity, that moment of yeah, I guess it would be clarity, right? To kind
Mhm.
of do what she had to do, which was essentially disarm somebody with a double bladed lightsaber, and taking nothing away from the fact that that guy is what is it, fifth brother, sixth brother? Which one was he?
Oh
Did they
boy,
say officially?
they didn't say officially.
Okay,
It
all
was
right.
just
So
an Inquisitor, I believe.
an inquisitor of sorts. Which, by the way, he said,
A mysterious
trying to figure out
Inquisitor.
what race he was.
I don't know. And they made it seem like it was a mask that deflated. So
But
I
he
have
still had
no
the
idea.
lengthy arms, like the little skeleton crow
Right.
arms and legs. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
He looked like Khonshu
that's a good, yeah, sort
from
of,
Moon Knight. Yeah.
for Moon Knight. Okay, so what I was saying is, I think, so she had to go through that, right? She had to kind of let all that go and really find her inner peace, kind of thing. And so all this plays back into the samurai way of thinking. And you've heard Dave Filoni even very recently talk about how whenever he's writing this stuff, he's trying to write about the things that George Lucas was inspired by, right? The Kurosawa films and samurai culture and all of that, and it's so prevalent in all of Star Wars. And we're not going to get into that. But one of the things that when we had the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul fight, we talked about this because there was a lot of feedback. A lot of people didn't like the way that fight went. They were wanting the 5-minute flash show, showmanship kind of thing, Revenge of
Yeah.
the Sith Part 2, and we didn't get that. And the reason why we didn't get that was because at some point, and I don't know if Dave Filoni is explicitly saying this, but I think at some point, the Jedi gets to this next level of presence, right, or consciousness. And we saw it with Kenobi, where he was kind of at peace, right? There was no more conflict with him. He knew who he was, and he'd probably been thinking about this fight for a very long time. So going back to the samurai battles, right? That is a very common samurai type battle. 1, 2 slices and it's over. The other thing, and again, I'm not an expert on samurai culture, but it's something I follow and like and read about whenever I can. But fighting somebody unarmed is exactly how she did it. And when samurai went through their training, you train unarmed first. You train on how to disarm first, and then they give you a sword, and you learn how to use the sword. And you realize that when you have the sword, all of your non-sword movements are the exact same movements. You don't. It's like this big revelation that you're like, holy crap! Everything that I've been learning how to do without the sword is exactly what I do when I have the sword. If that makes any sense. So all I'm saying is, in that moment, she had already gone through all of that process of training with her lightsabers, and if they really kind of are harking back to samurai culture, it's just a natural that she would have been able to disarm somebody like an Inquisitor. Again, not taking anything away from him, but he's not a Darth Vader. He's not, a Sith Lord of some sort. So I think it makes total sense. And I did enjoy the way she did disarm him. I thought it was perfect, especially seeing that moment where she lets go of her fists and has that moment of clarity to kind of do what she needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if there's a question there anywhere, but
No, it was just me
no,
rambling.
no, great analysis. I mean, I agree. I think her letting go of that, harkens back to the conversation she had with Bail Organa earlier in the episode, right? You have to, basically staying true to who you are. Don't lose sight of who you are. You're going to be needed, like what you represent, what you bring to the galaxy is what we need the most in that moment. And yeah, she strikes him down. So I mean, clearly there's violence that goes with that because it's a kill or be killed type of moment, most likely. But it's a way of doing it, of a way she can do this passively. And again, this is why it's difficult to say that she's forsaken the Jedi moniker or something like that. She still very much embraces the teachings of it,
Mhm.
which makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's been her entire life, except for the last, I don't know how long this has been, maybe a couple, maybe a year or something like that at most. But or maybe longer. But I mean, but it's still great that she still remembers those teachings, and it's about centering yourself. It's about being calm. You can see your enemy. You can anticipate. This is what Anakin was teaching in the previous episode. You can anticipate your opponent and know what they're going to do, but only if you're centered, only if you have peace, only if you're calm. Right, the things that Yoda tells Luke in Empire Strikes Back. So all the things come together. So I do like that there was a bit of a link with the previous episode too for Tales of the Jedi for Ahsoka. From Anakin.
Yeah.
That has a similar, a different application, but the similar message, the similar reason behind it is still relevant.
Yeah, and it was, and this is why she made the call. And I can't remember the line what he says, but he says basically, "Are you ready to join us?" And she kind of nods and
Yeah.
says, "Yes, yeah," because she's made her peace and she knows who she is now and
And you
ready
have to
to
step
fight the
away. I
battle.
mean, sometimes you have to have that distance from it in order to have perspective, and I think she saw it firsthand. And it's the hero's journey, right? You got to have that call to action. There has to be something that you get presented back that says, this is what's going on and you cannot escape it. You can put your head in the sand, you can hide. This is what Obi-Wan was going through as well in the Kenobi series. But at some point it's going to find you, and you have to make a decision about who you are and what you believe. And she's ready to come out of the shadows and ready to pick up the sword again, so to speak.
And who was it that taught Obi-Wan that lesson? Wasn't Qui-Gon Jinn. It was Princess Leia. So just
You're
a
absolutely
reminder.
right.
So yeah, the last thing I have on the technical piece of this, this is where I know you mentioned it, but the sound and the music.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh, get out of here! Like it's
Total like Western vibe on this thing. And there was another kind of a fusion. What kind of music vibes were you picking up from this?
um, that's a good question. I hadn't really thought about the music vibes.
It kind of felt like Western, showdown type of music, where it
Yeah,
escalates, maybe more modern takes on it, but
yeah. It was definitely modern. Like I was even thinking, like it didn't feel like Japanese samurai movie to me.
right now.
Maybe it did. I don't know. I would say no, but it had a modern feel to it. But it was classical in the sense. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it really I mean, it was an extension of what we had already gotten in season 7 of the Clone Wars. We talked about this in the Dooku episodes, right? It was ominous at times, but this was a very powerful piece that Kiner had put together that was really kind of again tapping into a lot of that. So I
Yeah.
don't know, it was I think it was fitting, very fitting. Although I would say it's not traditional Star Wars music, right? I mean, it
No, not at
wasn't
all.
Duel of Fates or the main title or any of the other the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I mean, it wasn't anything of that caliber. It was just very different, but I think at the same time, it still had that same weight and epicness to it.
I'd love to hear that on like a soundtrack. I don't know if there's a Tales of the Jedi soundtrack that got released to Spotify or anything like that, but that's one that I would go back and listen to a lot. I
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. It was very thematic, and when you listen to it, you can close your eyes. And I actually did this when I was watching. I closed my eyes. I was like, "What do I envision?" And you just envision a showdown. You envision a panning camera of looking at the two opponents, and the toothpicks and the behind the shots. Like the Mandalorian had at times, right? And all those images come to mind as that tension builds. And so that's it. I went straight to that gunslinger moment, that showdown, high noon type of thing. And the Inquisitor dragging the lightsaber in the dirt
Yeah.
and stuff, and the smoke. Oh man! Again, sound and visuals and the particles and the lighting. Goodness, man, they are good at this stuff.
Yeah. Really great animation. I mean, I think it's the best they've done so far, honestly. And even better than, what we got in Bad Batch. There's just something about what they're doing there. So
Interested to see how Bad Batch is going to evolve this season visually.
yeah, right. I mean, if they're using this, I mean, is it going to be the same caliber as what we're seeing in Tales of the Jedi? I mean, that bodes well for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll see here
We
very
just
soon.
we need a bigger sampling than what we've had. Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, I mean, that was really the last thing I had on that episode. Again, it was maybe not as deep as some of the Dooku stuff, but certainly just as enjoyable for a lot of different reasons. It had its moments with
It was
these
a
type
very
of episodes.
satisfying episode too, I think.
Well, yeah, and the series itself was just extremely satisfying. Like I don't. I mean, Dave Filoni is only one person, right? And I get that, and he's tapped with so many other projects going on right now. But my goodness, let's get this man or get somebody else. I mean, I wonder who he's coaching. Like, he's got to be thinking about that here soon if he's not already doing it.
They've got to be doing succession planning, right?
Yeah, you would think they are.
Again, maybe the only complaint I'd have, and I hate to leave on this kind of note, so we'll have to bounce back from this, but the order of the episodes just again doesn't make any sense to me at all. I didn't like it. I didn't like having to start at one and then going to the last two. It just didn't make any sense to me. I didn't enjoy that at all.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the
we talked about it
last
last week,
episode.
but it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I was like, it did. I was questioning it as well, especially since we jumped to start with Ahsoka and then we jump away for what 2 episodes? I think 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. 1, 3, 2. I mean, even playoff baseball like understands that formula doesn't work. I mean, but to me, it's like, what purpose did it serve? I mean, if you're going to do that, it seems like it should tell. I mean, and I know they're trying to sell it, do it chronologically, I guess.
Chronologically, yeah, we know, yeah.
But it seems like it should serve a purpose if you're going to split their characters up that severely and not have them appear in that content between.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like there should be a reason. There should be some kind of tie in those, but there wasn't.
Yeah, or even like if there was a way to tie them all together, right? Like reoccurring themes from different perspectives, and
even if it's minor, right?
Sure.
In minuscule, just something that says this is why we're doing it this way. Otherwise, just stick them all together. I would have been totally fine with that. So anyway, a nitpick, of course, but
way to bring the show down, dude.
I know, right? But no, like you said, great series. This is a lot of fun series. This delivered. I like this style though. I like 15-minute content, super consumable. You get some things. Yeah, would have been great to have them a little bit longer, full episode length, but I think this works. I like this type of consumable content, and I wish they would do bigger stretches of it. I wish, like you, I wish we get a second season or a second half of season 1 and extend this to 12 and give us another great 6 episodes. And I would like it not in this era. That would be cool if Tales of the Jedi truly meant Tales of the Jedi across all of time.
Yeah, we theorized that about that the second series, right? Part 2 would be. Well, I said Luke and Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe that's one theory or one group of stories from either Ben or Luke's perspective. You could fast forward, do Rey's. You can go back, do High Republic. I mean, there's a lot
I'm
of.
like Huey Lewis in the News, man. Just take me back in time.
Oh boy. You and Alex, he already mentioned Karate Kid, and you're over here waxing Back to the Future 3. So
that's right, man.
All right, well, we'll end the show on that 80s note. Good series and good discussion. So let's see. What do we got? We got any shout outs?
We do. So everyone, if you're listening to this, of course, come out and visit us on the live stream, cantinacast.com/YouTube. You can actually see all of that on the website now too. If you just go to cantinacast.com, you'll see it all front and center. Links out to everywhere. You can still get to the podcast from there as well if you want that just audio only and all the cleaned up, all the nonsense stuff that happens during the live stream, all nice and cleaned up. Jedi Toros is out there, of course, as well. In the live stream or in the chat tonight during the live stream, we had Steph, Lauren, Eugene, Jonathan, Sky, Dante, Kathy, Archive Skywalker, Dale, obviously Subdued, Rob, and Alex coming in at the last minute, representing the fam.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for being here, everybody. Okay.
And then, Patreon. You want to plug Patreon for us?
Yeah. If you head out to cantinacast.com/Patreon, you guys can sign up for any number of the tiers. All you got to do is sign up for any tier will give you the Patreon content. So it also, some of the tiers give you access to come onto the show and join us for some of the fact poi from a certain point of view, where we take fun topics, top 3s, top 5s, whatever it may be, and talk to you guys, have you guys give you the opportunity to have a voice on the show, since, hey, you keep the lights on. So head out there, sign up for Patreon, and shameless plug, but don't forget, Jedi Novel Archives is already out there. So please take a look at Lauren's. We got to get a little banner up here so we can plug that. I don't have one available.
That's right. Or you can go check it out on cantinacast.com/YouTube.
Oh, there you go. Cantinacast.com/YouTube.
I got you covered in all the ways, man. But here's the
Jonesy, you've done so much good job. No, seriously, like you've done an amazing job on the website and you've put so much freaking time into it. So thank you for doing that. I really mean that.
My pleasure. I hope people go out there and look at it.
Yeah, it's a thankless job. So I do.
It's an expectation to have it all out there, but it's fun. It's fun though at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, we got a new plugin. I got to go buy a new plugin and try, something different. So that was cool.
You and your plug-in toys. It's like
I know, man. Nerds. All right, so this is my favorite part of the episode where we have not talked about what we're doing next week. And you bring some surprise to me saying, we haven't talked about this, but I was thinking we would do this.
Well, we need it. Okay, so a couple things. So next week, at some point, Jonesy, we haven't talked about it, but we probably should do the Book of Boba Fett 1 year later episode.
Oh, that's right.
We've got that coming up. And with Lauren onboarding now, we will get around to the High Republic. So look for that. And we've got some other novels that we need to get to. By the way, Battle of Jeddah, the audiobook for High Republic Phase 2. We got that in today?
Yesterday, and it releases January 3rd. Kind of a curious release date right at the first of the year.
But beginning of the year. So
George Mann, I believe, right?
Yes. Yep. So we that's when I don't remember when the embargo is, but once we get our hands on that,
tell us that's why.
Yeah. Well, expect something probably at least from Lauren, and I know you're a big audiobook fan, but we'll figure all that out. So we've got a lot of book and novel kind of coverage coming, but probably first and foremost, we want to get to Book of Boba Fett season 1 year later, which has been a time tradition here on the show to kind of review or I guess revisit some of these things and just see how well they hold up. Like, do we have the same kind of feelings about them now that it's been a year later and we've had additional content? I think it's gonna be kind of I shouldn't say that, but it comparing it to like Andor now, it's like, well, I don't know. We'll see how that. I haven't had a chance to watch it, so I'm curious what that's gonna do.
Well, I mean, we have to remember, we talked a little bit about this on the Patreon show this past week.
2 different kinds of series.
There were some really epic moments in Book of Boba Fett that had nothing to do with Boba Fett, right? So I mean,
that's very true.
Which is funny because it drags the series down, but lifts it up at the same time.
Sure,
but for very different reasons. Yeah. So again, a lot of good moments in there too. So I am curious how we will look back and reflect on that, a whole year removed from it, if it really, if it leaves the same kind of thoughts in our minds as we go through it. Yeah, and then of course, as we come up on the Christmas and New Year's holidays, we will take a little bit of time off, but we'll have a little more clarity around that here soon and let y'all know. So we hope everyone is having a safe holiday season so far and enjoying. So hopefully some well-deserved time off, well-earned time off here pretty soon.
Yep. Cool. All right, guys. We'll end the show there, and we'll see you all next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.